I've made this type of video a couple times before, but people just keep asking for more, and with their hobby constantly advancing along, new gaps open up. Sometimes we focus so much on what's new and tactical that we forget about the classics, or other times the industry just turns a blind eye to some of the most requested replicas ever. So let's take a look at just 10 airsoft replicas that we need. Stuff that we can't get in airsoft form. There's hundreds of pieces to pick from, but let me see if I can get a good mix for this top 10 right after I thank Airsoft GI and G&G Armament, who are always supporting our videos even if they have very little to do with them. Together, they've been a huge help to put on USAirsoft, and it's only right that I thank them. I also need to thank this countdown sponsor, and that gratitude goes to X. Look over here. This is my G&G M14 EBR, and it's a battleship of a DMR. But let's say I want to get some gameplay of it. Well, I can use the most rugged camera I've ever been handed to do that. This is the X Elite. And it's got some great features that any Milsim bro is gonna love. 1440 QHD video, automatic night vision mode, a built-in flashlight with Wi-Fi capabilities, and more, like a 9-hour battery life. This camera can take the abuse, and that doesn't surprise me. After all, it's basically a civilian version of a trusted piece of equipment used by the Israeli military. Need some light? Just use the integrated flashlight or the infrared illumination for those darker video opportunities. Its water resistance will be another plus for those airsofters who don't say time out when it rains, and the button layout is as simple as it can be. There's truly a lot to talk about when it comes to this piece of equipment. And because of its features and its ruggedness, I've decided to work with X for this countdown, so check out their website with the link in the description to learn more about them, or check out their YouTube channel that'll also be linked. But one more time, a big thanks goes to X for sponsoring this video. So starting off this top 10, I'm going to show some love for a couple of my favorite Call of Duties. I'm not talking about Black Ops 1 or Modern Warfare 2 this time, but Black Ops 2 gave us the Effenherstal Hammer, and Modern Warfare 3 gave us the PM9, and the Peruvian FAD. Now I did put the Hammer at the bottom because it's somewhat doable already with the SCAR variants that we have now. It's only a little different on the outside from the others. The 7.62 drum mags though, those are pretty sick. Nonetheless, I think VFC could knock this one out of the park pretty easily since they only need to remake the outer barrel for the most part. It just doesn't seem too complicated to me for an AAG. I'm sorry if I'm not showing the Hammer any justice here, but I didn't want to skip it after all the requests to see a Hammer on one of these lists. I'd honestly rather see the Ash 12, and let's make that a gas blowback while we're at it. Since the magazine is so big, gas consumption should be pretty awesome. And I'm looking at GHK to make it happen. LCT can make it into an AAG, and I'd still be happy though. Next, I have to talk about the PM9 and the FAD, or FAD. Now I love both of these, especially the FAD, since it's that kind of ugly where it becomes interesting. There's not much info on either of these two for the most part. The Japanese PM9 is built along the same idea as the Uzi, with a few changes throughout. Some people said the PM9 was a mess in Modern Warfare 3, but I always thought it was slept on. Either way, the PM9 is an interestingly ugly SMG that I believe Northeast Airsoft has mentioned before. They're already doing the world a favor by bringing us some new steel gas blowback Uzis, but if they could pull this off as well, then I think I'll become an even greater fan of their work. Not leaving the FAD out, I really don't know who would make a great replica of this bullpup. I would hope to see it keep the obscene rate of fire in game, even if it's unrealistic to the real thing, and that it would use standard M4 magazines, even with its angled mag well. I'd expect the hop-up situation to be rather strange to work with though, but I guess an Ares-style BB track could work. So far, these picks might not be too interesting, but just you wait. Even if you're a bullpup hater, you'll still like my next two picks. I'm not going to waste anyone's time here. I want a VHS, and I want a GM6 Lynx. And everybody here probably agrees with that too. These have been two of the most requested bullpups I've ever seen in Airsoft since their popularity has gone soaring on the internet. The VHS, I'll take in any variant. They all look good to me, like a Hellgast rifle or an H&K inspired FAMAS. Actually, it was a contender to replace the FAMAS, but ultimately lost to the H&K 416. Even with their advantages, bullpups still can't seem to beat a proper H&K. For the most part, they can accept standard M4 magazines, which is great for us airsofters, and everything is ambidextrous, so that's another bonus. I would like to see some translucent magazines with a version 2 gearbox inside of it if it has to be an AEG. But who would take on the project? I could see either VFC or Ares doing this, but G&G could probably put together something that slightly mimics a VHS. It's all about licensing when it comes to one-to-one products, so I think for this spot holder, VFC is our best bet. Then for the Jeopard GM6 Lynx, man, just saying that sounds awesome. It's a long recoil semi-auto 50 cal with a slick barrel and bolt release system so you can ready it. From every angle, this thing looks amazing, which explains why it's been in so many video games lately. This thing will never be a cheap replica, and I really want to stress that. Everything from its magazines to replacement parts would be expensive. And if we're honest, if it's 1-to-1 scale, then you won't be seeing it on the field very much. It's too big. It's over 20 pounds. It would probably cost at least, I don't know, $1,000 unless it was made from polymer, and no one wants to see that. And I don't think we have a gas system powerful enough to recoil the mass of the barrel like this. So it would either be an AEG or a collector piece powered by CO2. This might have been one of the most requested modern pieces for this list. However, I just don't see this ever happening. For now, we'll have to stick to games and a lot of YouTube. May I recommend Arm and Gun? I think you'd like the videos that he's done over his. For my top 5, I'll let you know now that I've talked about these already in past countdowns, but it's outstanding how many times each of these are still being asked for. In nearly any review I do, at least 2 of these will be mentioned in the comments. And when SHOT Show or EWA comes up, people pray to see one of these at a booth. So these are truly the top 5 most requested airsoft replicas ever, starting off with the Sig Sauer MPX. Not having an MPX in Airsoft has become a bit of a controversy that Airsoft headquarters even made a nearly 25-minute video over why we'll never see one in Airsoft. I mentioned a while ago that we came very close when VFC brought out the MCX, which I still want. Those have done very well on the market with the Milsim and gamer crowd since it was all over Modern Warfare 2019. And with colored variants coming out and Umbrella Armory putting out a few, the hype continues to grow. But I'm wondering if VFC is even capable of making the MPX at this point. Either way, it will be expensive. Expect $450 to $500 for the AEG version with $30 or maybe even $40 mid caps. It would be smart for them to use the MPX hype to make big money back. And if it's released as a gas blowback by VFC, then it'll probably be barred from the United States, like many other VFC gas blowbacks, while at the same time being way out of the price range for most casual airsofters. There's a lot more business politics that makes the MPX a difficult project to produce, but I don't want to steal this man's thunder, so go ahead and check out his video when you have the time. Moving along, the HK21 is a legendary H&K that we could get very soon if Classic Army is to follow up on their promises. I've talked a lot about Call of Duty, but I kind of blame Black Ops 1 for making a lot of people aware of this belt-fed G3 variant. I personally love light support weapons that are built on existing platforms, like the Colt LMG, L86, and the RPK, and even the QBZ LMG. But if we got a good and accurate HK21, then I'd be using it as much as I can. And if we got an LCT level HK21 like Dave's custom build, I'd have to contemplate dropping $1,000 on it. But we need this kind of quality to make the HK21 really something special for our game. Even if you make it accept box magazines only or G3 pattern magazines, if it has that bolt release thing, or if it doesn't, I still really want it. I'll make some sacrifices, but if we can get as close as possible to the real thing, then I would love it. A suggestion I would make is if you're going to make one, then take a look at this one from Dave's Customs and take some notes. Because that thing's beautiful, and we want that kind of quality. For my third pick, I can see either Tokyo Marui, G&G, or maybe LCT making this happen. I think we're due for an SKS. Make it AG, make it a gas blowback, we don't care anymore. Just make it as true to 1-to-1 as possible so we can use the vast array of stuff that's already on the market. Even if it takes proprietary magazines or if it accepts AK magazines, that's still a deal. I just want some steel parts and a nice wood stock on it. Whoever makes one will surely be filling a void in Airsoft. And the arguments over if it should be left original on the outside or fitted in a tactical chassis with attachments cluttering it up would be funny to read. Let's just hope that someone is already working on a new SKS and that it doesn't flop when it hits the market. Because if you could remember, the AA-12 was one of the most requested things that we wanted in the game. And I still don't see very many of those on the field. But these last two, if done right, even if they sell as much as $500 each, wouldn't fail on the market. I feel very comfortable with saying that. We love prototypes and concepts, stuff that we will never get our hands on in the real world, and that's true for players, enthusiasts, and collectors that will never take their replicas to a single game. So, I don't think I'm wrong by saying that the two most requested Airsoft replicas ever goes to the AN94 and the H&K G11. As you can see, neither of these are tactical by modern standards. The AN94 is better off than the G11 with its acceptance of AK pattern magazines, but that's not the point. Despite these two being hindered by a lot of proprietary exterior parts and very strange stick magazines when it comes to the G11, these are still the most popular dream replicas. They could have electronic blowback, they'll still sell. They could have garbage tier gearboxes and they'll still sell and get reworked by owners. They just stand on a very tall pedestal. And trust me when I say this, if you think either of these are ugly, no one cares. We have a lot of H&Ks already and a lot more AKs, but if we never get these two replicated for our game, we'll always have a hole in our collections that we'll never fill unless we get desperate. This is why this blowback G11 and this build by Turtles Armory get a lot of attention. Regardless of all this, we hope to see these soon. We need to see the news that anyone is making either of these so we can collectively contemplate skipping on bills to buy them. I think I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I took a big dive into a lot of comments from a lot of videos and tracked down some interesting builds to put this all together. So if you like this video, then go ahead and show me by hitting that like button down below so more people can see this. Also, tell me in the comments what you want replicated in Airsoft or how much you'd put down to get a G11 or an AN94. This video took a lot longer than I expected to put together, but I appreciate anyone who watches this top 10, just like how I appreciate Airsoft GI and G&G Armament who are always supporting the stuff I do here on the US Airsoft channel. I seriously couldn't do this kind of stuff without them. And a big shout out goes to the people at Marum X as well. I really appreciate the opportunity they gave me since sponsorships like these don't come too often. Links to Marum X's website will be in the description down below. And I appreciate all the US Airsoft channel members like Ruben, who just signed up, Sailing MP, who's been our longest running member, Western Gilbert, Tristan R in Airsoft, Truffle, and everyone else you see on your screen now. All of these people directly keep the channel going with their memberships, so I want them to get their shoutouts now. Maybe consider joining them with the link in my description or with the join button on the US Airsoft homepage. You can think of this like sponsoring the channel yourself. And I really do appreciate anyone who looks into doing this. But until that next video drops from the city of San Antonio, this has been Scott Hollenbeck, and I will be sure to see you all next time.